Well, like a lot of industries around the world, the biggest markets are still Europe and North America. They account for over half the global market between them, even though it's only 700 million people. But as we go forward 10, 20, 30 years, the growth in the industry will come out of the emerging markets in Asia, South America, and maybe to a small extent in Africa. And so that's a trend that's going to happen in our industry. Now, what will drive that is increase in GDP of these countries. We're closely tied to GDP, and as GDP in emerging market economies grows, people will move up from lower class to middle class, and then they can afford a flight. Most people in the world have never been on an airplane. They've never had a flight. And there's loads of statistics, that I could quote you about the capacity for growth. But one that's interesting is that all the airlines in Russia, which is the world's biggest country by landmass, carried less passengers last year than the smallest of the big US airlines. And so there's tremendous opportunity for growth in our industry that's definitely there. Aircraft leasing itself, we have gone from about 5–6% of ownership of the world's fleet in, say, 1990 to over 40% today. Now, the world's fleet is growing by 100 billion a year, and there's only really 10 aircraft leasing companies in the world of any significant scale. So just for us to stand still, we have to fund about 50 billion a year to maintain our own market. Well, not quite 50, but say 40 billion a year to maintain our 40% of new aircraft acquisitions. This company, we do about 5 billion a year of CapEx is what we do. But so I would see the aircraft leasing industry probably maybe going to 50% at the most, and then the airlines will own the other half of the fleet themselves. The industry has always been a fairly small niche group of entities. That's because it is deeply capital intensive. It's very global in nature. And particularly in today's world, it'd be quite difficult for a financial institution to get a hold of to grow a significant size, because financial institutions today are far more regulated than they've ever been. And for them to go to their regulator, be it the Fed or the ECB or the Bank of England, and say, I'm going to put 30 billion into aircraft leasing, that's something that'd be a very tough thing for them to do with their regulator, because that's the type of thing the regulator would have seen in the past as what got them into trouble, going off-piste on investments. They're happy to do maybe 5 or 10 billion, but to get into the really big leagues of somewhere like where we are and General Electric, I don't see that happening. So I think the industry will stay focused in a pretty small group of players.